What's up, guys? Our Wrestling Podcast back at you with another episode. This is Dave Vicious, along with Just the Total Package, and Craig the British Bulldog, bringing you our perspective on the world of professional wrestling. No inside sources, no ties to the industry, just stories from the diehards, sharing opinions with you. Today's topic, wrestling's Mount Rushmore. For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion at Our Wrestling Podcast. On social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2019 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast? Jess, I have been told by a little birdie that this is not going to be your traditional Mount Rushmore, and thank goodness for that, because everybody does it all the time, and I feel like we come up with the same. Everybody comes up with the same shit. This is going to be a little different, right? I hope.
I don't know. Cuz was supposed to be on this week, and it was his idea.
This is his topic.
This topic, I did not prepare. I don't know what the fuck you want to talk about. He just couldn't be on. So everybody, I think it was like a year ago. It just, it comes in waves. A year ago podcast. So I'm super late, by the way, on this. But like a year ago, like there was memes and podcasts going around where they were doing the Mount Rushmore thing again. It always comes around like every X amount of years. And then like the same 4/6 people just maneuver in and out. And then I always sometimes get down on some newer wrestling fans or whatever. But I'm like, what would our Mount Rushmore be if we didn't start watching wrestling until like 2010? Like, what would our Mount Rushmore be? Because like a lot of my picks we're going to do it two ways. We're going to do our personal ones. It doesn't have to be what everybody thinks, where everyone, the same, like I said, the same 4 to 6 people will automatically, because people think, oh, you got to put this person in because we respect them. They're a legend. It's like, they all are. So I mean, it's just so, I was like, well, no one ever really did a Mount Rushmore that was just them, the no shame Mount Rushmore, like the Mount Rushmore that the characters that touched you and that reached out to you. It's easy to say, I know we're going to, after we do our personal one, then we're going to do what we think our generic one would be, meaning the same one that everybody else does. And those people there's a core 3 that I could say right now that everybody is going to. But if we do our individual personal ones that those characters reach out to us, I think it's going to be very different. And it all started
I love
with
that,
me.
Jess. It's a no judgment. Who you connected with. No, you said it. No shame. Perfect. Not about drawing. Not about legendary status. Not who had the most titles. Purely your own personal non-judgment. What makes you smile? What makes you love wrestling? Who you connected with? Mount Rushmore. I think that's great, and I think it's good insight into all of us individuals too.
So are we going to do each one of us just give our 4 or just our 4?
No, go first.
Yeah, please go first, Jess.
Or assign whatever you want.
God damn it.
Boss, you're the boss.
Okay. Well, brother, you got to put Andre on it. That's what Hogan said on his mouth. You got to put Andre.
Brother.
Okay. Brother. So mine is.
Oh, why not that guy?
Hogan's got it.
I said that too early.
Hogan has to be on there, even though he's going to be on the primary one, probably. Hogan's on mine for obvious reasons. He's the reason why I watch pro wrestling. If I didn't lay my eyes on the Hulkster facing King Kong Bundy that one time, you'd be lying to yourself
if he wasn't on your if he wasn't on your Rushmore. You'd be lying to yourself, buddy.
He's my first choice. Hogan is. And then I would like to put Sting, because all the years that went by, I got into WCW a little bit later, and I always knew I really liked Sting.
You said Kane?
No, Sting.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I swear to God, I was not joking. I thought you said Kane.
Well, Kane. And you guys are all trying to not get mad at me.
You were trying not to lose. You're like, you said Kane?
Well, this is no judgment.
No just want to be clear. No, I know. There's no judgment. Did you say Kane? It's cool
just throw your headphones in the camera.
I can't wait to hear your justification for it. I was just asking.
After you go the right arrow, no, I said Sting.
My God.
Oh yeah. Oh, I just want to. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to call you the number one cunt. I didn't mean to.
Wow. I did with Sting. I didn't realize. I knew I always liked him, and I always steadily liked him all throughout all of his different like phases of his career, from the Crow to the Surfer. And then especially this year when we said goodbye to him, I was like, man, I'm really going to miss him. I really liked him. And he's on my Mount Rushmore as somebody who I always gravitated to. And I just didn't realize I was. The entire time I would watch WCW during its bad years because of Sting. Like, Sting was one of the only reasons why it did, really. I mean, I liked when Rude and all them went there too, of course. But Sting was always like the consistent for me. Then I want to move on to Savage. Because Savage,
I love it. I love it. This
Macho Man. It was Macho Man and Hogan. I started watching wrestling about 3 months before February 5 main event, where Andre defeated Hogan with the twin referees, and that event changed my life. One of the other guys that was right there in that whole storyline was Macho Man, and him, and then getting to go back and rent past videos and watch him as heel Intercontinental Champion was a treat. And then I always connected with Macho Man. And there was never, when he went to WCW, I was really excited to see him again. And especially when he became NWO and his feud with DDP, reminding me why I love him so much and why he is a legend. And like, so he's a third space. And my fourth space is Chris Jericho. I think that I've always studied.
Love it.
Since he became like the Monday Night Jericho in WCW, I always gravitated towards him. He went through a slump when he was trying to learn the WWF way a little bit when he first started. But then after that, the Undisputed Champion.
Picked it up pretty quick, though,
which, again, I didn't really care for his Undisputed Championship, but he was learning, and he got so good after that. And then when he became the Suit Jericho and all that, he was excellent as the heel Suit Jericho. I mean, like, he was just dead on. He was so fucking over at that time, too. And, like, that's when he really
I've never seen a
himself.
promo like Jericho did when he just walked out, ran around the ring, and was quiet for 12 minutes. I've never seen anybody do anything like that in my life. Like, that's
when he turned heel.
Good choice.
So yeah, that's my four spots: Hogan, Sting, Savage, and Jericho. Maybe I have some runners up, maybe. I mean, but I would just be kind of like intertwining people. Like,
that's great. No, that's good. I have no issues with that at all. Like, great. I think mine is even less legendary than that. Like, I'm afraid I'm doing the exercise wrong.
Well, if it connects with you, it doesn't matter. So, like we said,
it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Go for it, buddy.
There we go. Okay. First guy's that guy, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It has to be. Like, Davey Boy's got to be on there. I know he never won the world title.
Doesn't matter.
But as far as me and my identity, and
he should have.
It's just the guy I stole his music from, the guy I stole my identity when I was doing backyard wrestling, the guy I identified with is the guy, a British guy who moved to the United States in 1983. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I just not going to do it. Have to. Love that guy. Second, actually, is the guy actually next to him. You can't see in the photo, but Bret Hart.
Bret Hart, yeah.
Sometimes Bret Hart is missed off of the Rushmores of the world.
Yes.
And I might be putting him on this list as a bit of a
consolation.
Like, exactly, a consolation prize for not being on the four, but for carrying the Federation and his loyalty, and then finally kind of being told and having no choice but to jump, and then getting jump, and then inadvertently causing the Attitude Era, and then God, he had so much promise and he was so good, and he was beloved, and he's a wrestler's wrestler to
you
this
were
day,
always the one,
the
so
FTR.
like when I went through my phases with Brett, you never not liked Brett. You always liked Brett. I think, like, throughout all when we were growing up. And I went through phases with him. I liked him at first when he wanted to see that, and I soured on him. I don't know why. And then when he became world champion, I was like, this is different than Hogan. And like, I was a bitch fan, like, because I was such a Hogan.
Well, there's also a lot of people that you bought into with the Dirts saying that he was the champion when they weren't drawing any money. And I'm like, well, and then we discovered later, like, one, that was not his fault. And two, he was putting on fucking barn burners for us that we didn't appreciate at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we soured.
Yeah.
You know?
And nobody was drawing money. He was that. He was the guy. Even though he was drawing very little money, it was the only money being drawn.
Yeah. Him and Taker.
At some of the time. Yeah.
Him and Taker.
Right. Him and
were
Taker.
the only two.
Right.
Yeah.
And Sean. Sometimes Sean.
Yeah. Who?
Yeah.
Third on my list, actually, a modern guy, Roman. I think Roman single-handedly kind of one of the biggest reasons I enjoyed the last 10 years of wrestling.
It's a good pick.
I think we're going to look back, and kind of us fans and our 30-year plus fans, we maybe don't appreciate, and we seem to like let the past be longer than the present right now. And I think Roman's taken up a shitload of time that we don't even realize and been on top of the game for that long.
For a long fucking time.
Until
he wants to leave, right?
Yeah. So I put two kind of modern day guys. So we're going to Bulldog, Brett, Roman, and then my fourth one, purely everything he's ever done, I've loved, is Daniel Bryan. So
yeah,
that's a tough one.
You want to talk about a guy that was he forced his will on them, on his popularity and the yes movement and everything, like purely fan driven. Like maybe we were all playing that they had it, but I think he once took a test at the WWE and he was like, what was it? The least competitive or the least I forget what it.
There was a word for it. Yeah, there was a word for it. It's like not a go-getter. Like he just kind of stands still while the world moves around him. Yeah. But he loved pro wrestling, and like that's the thing. Yeah. That's what they were doing. That was their art form. And then they had the nerve to tell him, like, you don't like this. He's like, I love this more than any of these people. Yeah. Like, probably.
I don't want to collect world titles at all, but for some reason, because of what Danielson did and created, I want that wooden world title, that wooden WWE title. Because of what it represented to him. It's really more, and it's a lot about him too.
Daniel Bryan should go down. He should go down as one of the greatest wrestlers to ever do it because of his passion, especially.
And I'll tell you,
the storytelling and technical work is unmatched. Sorry, go ahead.
There was an AEW Dynamite clip, the Dynamite video package that was talking about him and Swerve. And in it, there's a quote from him saying, "What I will remember about wrestling is not necessarily in the ring. It's the moments with the brothers backstage and the other wrestlers and being on the road." And that really to me like spoke like that. Yeah, that's
he loves it.
He loves all of it.
So that's my four. It was Bulldog, Brett, Roman, and Bryan and Daniel Bryan.
All trash. Okay, go on.
And by the way, some of these were like in my borderline, so I'm kind of glad because I can go.
Did you say Kane?
Do just some different things. No. Did you say Kane? I love Kane. Explain why Kane.
That's fucking fine.
Okay. I've been thinking about this ever since you popped it up, Jess, like in the middle of the week, and there are some things that are going to go a little different. I think they're going to swerve a little bit. The most obvious one for me that you guys know is going to be Kurt Angle. It's not even a question for me. Kurt Angle, for some reason, I drew to him immediately. I love everything that Kurt has done, even to the point of where he's, gritty Kurt Angle, like I'm gonna destroy you, to the funny girthy stuff he did in the back, the stuff he did with Stone Cold is absolutely phenomenal. And he's won multiple world titles. He brought TNA to a level that a lot of people probably couldn't believe it happened with him and Samoa Joe. He rose that particular organization up, even when he was struggling and hurting, and probably hurting himself too, which is a whole other story. He overcame a massive addiction issue, which is to be commended. But he still did all of these things after he won a gold medal with a broken freaking neck. But you take some things into Kurt, that what he's done, throwing Shane into the sugar glass that didn't break and tear him through it anyway and making it work, even though Vince is ready to kill him by the time the match is over. He's still going to do things for the business. Knocking people in with a milk truck and just bringing that in and destroying people, like the stuff he did. There's moments there that you'll never forget. And he had so much trust in the business that he had no business in trusting, because he was coming from a real era. And Kurt Angle, no one has crossed over better from the real to the entertainment side of the business, if that makes sense. I mean, people have come close, but I think Kurt Angle has done it better than anyone else. And he's also brought people up along the way towards the end. He's helped people along the way on his way out. He attempted to do so with Ronda. He put a lot of people over on his way out in 2019. I love Kurt Angle. And you look at the stuff that he's done with Benoit, he's done with The Rock, he did with Stone Cold. I mean, he was in there with some of the greatest with Undertaker. His match with Brock, where Brock broke his own neck, was unbelievable even in that moment. I mean, there are so many moments with Kurt Angle. I've always said he's in the Mount Rushmore, and people look at me like, I don't know. I'm like, he changed the business, so much, and
agreed.
Love him for that. So now it's gonna get weird. Next one for me is Eddie Guerrero. Is fantastic.
Those were those two, Eddie and Angle, were
right outside for you.
I almost put him on. Like I wasn't sure where to put him.
I feel well. And Sting was in my Sting and Jericho is the same thing. It's like right there for me. So it's like I can put them in since you already said this, dude. That's kind of where I'm going. So I'm kind of glad. But Eddie Guerrero, what fabulous moxie with some of the best technical wrestling ever that you'll ever see. Any night with Eddie was a night off. We all know this. But then you started to see the entertainment value of Eddie as he went. Dominic Mysterio is who he is, I think, because a lot of Eddie. I don't know if you guys heard the story about every time they would do a scene with Eddie. I'm sorry, with Eddie and Dominic, and it was supposed to be really bad. He would give Dominic a piece of candy and make sure he was okay. You know, you okay?
Yeah, it was
okay?
licorice.
Licorice, that's right. It's like, and then he's like, "Are you sure it's not my dad?" And he went to, he told Mysterio Jr. "Are you sure it's not my dad?" And he's taller like Eddie. He's gonna have to look like Eddie, but he's definitely inspired Dominic Mysterio as well, obviously, as well as Ray.
Oh, by the way, sorry to interrupt, Dave.
Yeah, please.
Dominic Mysterio on Logan Paul's podcast said the original plan for the battle over Dominic was to hang him over the ring, not in a cage, just to literally.
He was going to hang
dangling.
on a harness. Yeah, he was going to.
To grab the fucking kid.
That's great.
To get him off the harness.
God, they should have done that.
I don't think Dominic. He was so little then. He was so
elevating
small.
a fucking like 6-year-old and how old he was.
Vince is like, just hang. I'm just
and he's like, and Eddie and Ray like, I don't know, Vince. I don't know about that.
Doing that. That's my son. We're not doing that.
I'm not hanging my son. He's a fucking.
I'm not a harness.
Yeah, and I'm not even giving Eddie his due diligence because it'll take too much time. But I just had to get Kurt Angle off my chest because that's my guy. That you guys all know that's my guy.
You're 2 for 2 right now. Fantastic.
Yeah. All right, so the last two are gonna irk you. Sorry. And this comes from PWG days, Jess. Or we've seen him, we love him.
Beefcake.
Nah, I love Kevin Owens so much. I am all about the KO movement.
There's nothing wrong with that, Dave.
Yeah,
That's
he's
great.
That's my modern pick. I love Kevin Owens. I love what he does. I love the fact that he's kind of like a normal dude. He's not like this in shape kind of guy.
We just don't understand the Brutus Beefcake pick.
I don't get it. That's weird. Yeah, it's weird. That would be a weird one for me. But the athleticism that Kevin possesses, along with the attitude that he possesses, his ability to work with anyone in there, he connects with me on a level when he's talking. And when you want people to just shut the fuck up, he'll say, "Will you just shut the fuck up?" Like, yeah. I love that about KO. I love that he tried to do like the suit thing with his title, but then he went back to KO of what he is today. He's that guy with the gritty just t-shirt and the knee pads all the way down and boots. And I'm here to wrestle. I'm here to work. And I feel like he always has that kind of mentality. I hope there's more for him in the future, but that's my modern pick because we saw him so long ago, Jess. So we watched some of these guys. There's other people I won't mention because we might want to talk about them later in other Mount Rushmores. But when you see those people in bingo halls and you watch them go up, that's a connection that you can't duplicate that. And I love KO for seeing him where we see him, watch him move up. I think it was fantastic. My last one, again, I have to explain it, but I'm gonna do my best. He's fallen on Mount Rushmore because of his impact on the industry. I'm going to say Dusty. I know it's weird, but Dusty Rhodes is, and this is above and beyond what he did as a performer. I'm thinking about everything that he did. Look at his kids. Look at Goldust. Look at Cody. Look what's happened with them over the years. Look where Cody is now. And we argue as a performer, we would say Cody is probably the best Rhodes. I think we're saying that now, but on my Mount Rushmore, I have to think about what he provided to us down the line, and then I think about the NXT movement and everything that he did to help accompany that and provide it. Not to mention his work in WCW and everything he booked in WCW that was really good for several years. Handled a lot of the booking, put himself in there. I have had more of appreciation for Dusty Rhodes over the last decade that I never thought I would have because I didn't know what he did. I'm not saying Kevin Sullivan is on my Mount Rushmore, but we respect Kevin Sullivan way more than we ever did 20 years ago because we didn't know what he did in the back. That stuff never gets talked about until years later. And the impact that Dusty had on the industry in 2 different major federations needs to be respected and brought to light. So, and that was the one I was really struggling with because I'm like, does that really fit though? I'm like, it works for me though because think about everybody that's on the roster today. How many of those people were not NXT guys? Maybe 2 or 3 that are on the roster today, active. 2 or 3 people. Everybody else has been touched by the dusty dust. Think about that.
And if it's not a WWE guy, if it's not Flair or Sting, it's got to be Dusty, right? Like, no, I think that's you don't see Dusty on a lot of Mount Rushmores, but deservedly so for many.
Because everybody thinks about the performer piece of it and what he did and how many titles he attained, which wasn't many. But when you think about the impact on the industry, you can make an argument, I think. But I know that's the weirdest one. But it's a lot of things you don't see. It's what you hear about Dusty after he left us.
And then, by the way, so all 3 of us, not one repeat on that kind of.
Did that? Kind of what I wanted to do it that way because I know the other way is just nothing but repeats. Like, because there's really only a few people. So now that we've set our 4.
What does everybody say? What does everybody say, right, Jess? What's the one that everybody says?
The bill that everybody says, like, I mean, there's one guy that's interchangeable, but you can't dispute Hogan. Right. You can't dispute The Rock. You can't dispute Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Right.
And, like, I'd say the 4th switches out between Taker and Flair. And I don't know,
right.
there's never been more famous 5 wrestlers in wrestling. Like, there hasn't been. Like, Flair is kind of like known now, but he's everywhere, even though it's more of a sad old man kind of thing. But Rick Rick is fucking over now. Like, it's weird. Like, Ric Flair's but what Rick did when he wrestled, which everybody forgets because he's so fucking old and he's lived so past his wrestling years that, like, he was on fire in the late 70s, all the 80s. Like, Ric Flair was the anti-WWF. He was the guy that
keeping the remainder of the territories alive, Jess.
If you were tired of Hogan, you went to because Flair was looked more real and more physical, even though everything Flair did was over the top. But he was just one of the greatest performers ever. He's drawn tons of money. Undertaker, I think, can flip into that last spot because he's been around for so long.
Do you think Taker could replace Stone Cold? So you leave it Hogan, Rock, Flair, and Taker? Or
I don't think so at all.
A battle for Flair and Taker.
I think that Steve Austin, like, I don't know if there would have been The Rock like that without him. Like, Steve was like, he was a great wrestler, and then he was not appreciated for it. Like so many are. Most of the people that made it on our personal lists were just not big enough, or whatever, or they weren't Hogan, Rock, or Austin. Like, that's really what it is.
Right.
Like, they were, and Cena, I see slip into a lot of people's Mount Rushmore now, especially because he's on his way out, like, basically. But I mean,
it was a different era. But it was if you grew up on Cena, you don't know Flair, you don't know Taker
and
as much.
Love Orton,
so,
I love Orton and Batista, but Cena was on a step higher. Like, Cena was just kind of heralded as like the Hogan guy for a long time. So those 6, I would say, intertwine. I mean, those 2 and The Rock, because The Rock was sneaky. The Rock was sneaky. Like, out of nowhere, it's like, are people? Is that louder than The Rock? Or is that pop louder than Austin's? I think it might be. Like, and there was a lot of time where Rock was hitting that area where I was like, Jesus, like, you would just hear, if you smell, and the entire place would just fucking erupt. Like, I mean, it wasn't even close. Like, and it was like, God damn, man. Austin, too. That might be the biggest pop I've ever heard in my life when Austin came out and helped Foley win the world title. I don't know if I've ever heard a bigger pop than that.
On Raw?
Insane.
That was on Raw.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. Yeah. So those 2, and Hogan, those 3 define the WWE for a long time. Like, it was just those 3. And I think the 4th spot is interchangeable.
It's like when you vote for somebody, these are what the majority of the people are voting for.
Yeah, and that's why even in this list, it's kind of semi-subjective because we're talking about, is it longevity, is it titles, like whatever. So, that's the whole game of this whole big Mount Rushmore game.
Yeah, some people Dave, that were raised differently, it's like, I'm not even kidding. It might be Flair, Race, Fez, you know what I mean? Like, it depends on what side you grew up on.
Right.
To them,
you're gonna hate my Rushmore, I promise you.
Honestly, I can say this with confidence, especially today's wrestling fans within the last 10 years. Everybody has forgotten how good Ric Flair was. Everybody.
Yes.
And Ric Flair is fantastic in his prime. Like, there's not even anybody close at times.
He wants us to forget how good he is. He's
fucking like he was the best, and like it just
he wants to sell
bunch of different reasons.
That's why he's got things to sell. He doesn't want you to watch his wrestling.
Do the woo wings, just
he's the wings, especially when he fucked it up the first time on the recording. It's the best, but because he's been such a clown of himself, like and then him almost dying is way more worth talking about. But like his run when he was on top and drawing money and representation of Crockett, like, was unparalleled. Like, Rick was huge.
Always been around. So many eras. Always reinvented himself. Like, beloved. Fantastic.
Yeah, you know what? Unlike the presidential one, which can't change because it's been carved in fucking rock. Like, we can change wrestling as time goes on for wrestling. Like, we can change it because it's not physical.
Yeah.
And you're right, I guess. Like, if you're broadening horizons, like, Roman helped usher in this, if you want to call it a boom period, whatever you want to call it right now, Roman is the front runner. Like, he brought everybody in with the heel character, by the way, lured everybody into it. And then now he's like the most over guy, even more than their champion. Discussion for a different time. But
and I could be just the dude that's just like the guy in the 70s who's like, well, San Martino had it for 12 years. Like, he's never really on the but I mean, the Rushmore. But
because they couldn't have made that much money because they were so regional. Like, the reason why I put Hogan on there, it was for all the damage that Vince did by just becoming one show, which is never healthy for the industry, like killing the territories, like at the very least, like the person that was on top with Vince was the guy. Like, even though Flair was still hanging in there and people would switch over to him instead of Hogan if they didn't like Hogan, but Hulk was a star, like a mega star.
Yeah.
He was as big as just any celebrity in the 80s. Everybody knew who, Eddie Murphy was, Arnold Schwarzenegger, like Sylvester Stallone. Hogan was just as big as all of them. Any Hollywood star that you wanted to talk about, everyone's like, "Oh, we know who Hulk Hogan is." Like, he was world famous. Like, it's crazy, like, to think about it. But I like that I'm not realizing the impact of Roman because we're in it right now, and then we keep comparing it to too many memories of the other boom periods, like, in our head. So, like, we were younger, we were kids,
Fuck. All right, wrap it up.
By the way,
wrap it up.
I did say Kane. Wrap it up, Dave.
For audio fans, give us a listen on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, and iHeartRadio, or watch our videos on YouTube at Our Wrestling Channel, and check out exclusive content on Daily Motion. We'll have a Moolah match, I'm sure, at Our Wrestling Podcast.
Can you imagine?
On social media, can you give us a follow on Instagram at O.W.P 2018 or on Facebook at Our Wrestling Podcast? For the Kragers, Jess, and Dave, this is the O.W.P signing off. Have a good one. Funguli.
Gabagool.